What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Still feeling a little under the weather, but better than I was on Monday. This is the second video that I have recorded today. I recorded a national pickups video. You will probably see that tomorrow. That was originally going to post while you were watching this, but this is probably the most requested Gemrate data video breakdown I have ever had. Since Gemrate made this post, I probably got at least a dozen different comments or DMs saying, when is your Gemrate data video dropping? When are you going to talk about the SGC numbers? When are you going to talk about the monthly grading report? So I decided to bump this video up. Tomorrow you will see a full recap of all my national pickups, followed by a full recap of my thoughts on the national, and then a bunch of new stuff that I need to play catch up on. Losing a day because I was not feeling great, and on top of the national travel and everything else has really mucked up the old content creation schedule. But alas, that is not what you were here for. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's go ahead and dive in. Hung out with Gemrate actually quite a bit over the weekend. Hung out with him at Filmington's party on Friday night and also at a dinner on Saturday that we were both at. Talked with him quite a bit throughout the weekend. Always good catching up with Gemrate. He is an actual human being. It is not just a calculator that spits out these numbers at the end of every month. So shout out to Gemrate. Let's run these through really quick, give some thoughts on them, and see how long the voice holds out for. PSA graded. That's not an actual number, Gemrate. 1 million, just over 1 million cards. CSG/CGC. Combined for 153,000. CSG did 68K. CGC did 85K. We'll get more into this in a minute. SGC did 54,000. That's the one everyone wants to talk about. As you can see, a 46% drop. Beckett not showing up this month. They had a bunch of behind the scenes pop report changes that jacked with the data, I believe, which caused some shenanigans for this month's report. Obviously, PSA puts up a super huge number. PSA is the only one on this list that still has the backlog. Keep that in mind. They have piles and piles of cards there to process. Most of those cards, if not all those cards, are already actually graded. They're still going through the back half of that process. CSG is virtually working with no backlog. SGC has no backlog, and Beckett no longer has a backlog. We'll basically be able to have a pretty good idea exactly what's going in and out the door of these companies in a given time period because they no longer have backlogs. PSA still does. How much longer? Not quite sure. I have to imagine they are getting close to the end. We'll circle back and talk about these individual numbers in a second. I want to go to the next screen really quickly. What Gemrate has done this month is he broke down sports versus TCG because of the whole CSG CGC thing. So here you see the monthly numbers just with sports. We see PSA coming in at 668,000, CSG at 68,000, SGC at 50,000, and Beckett not being represented on this month's report. TCG and non-sport, PSA 332,000, CGC 85,000, SGC 4,000. I never realized until he split this out like this how small of a presence SGC had in TCG/non-sport. That's really tiny, only 4K compared to CGC's 85,000. Once again, we've talked about this a lot before. The CSG CGC thing, CGC is pretty well represented in the non-sports category. They are a very well-known brand on that side, even more so compared to CSG on the sports card side. And obviously PSA grades a ton of these things. But it was interesting seeing this data broke out. Let's filter back to this one. The sports card side of things is kind of what we care about, and really these numbers kind of stay the same over the macro regardless which one we're talking about. If we go back to the beginning here. So PSA up 13% overall on the month. Once again, they still have the backlog, so there's just going to be some natural variance in there. I think this is the second time they've cracked 1 million cards in a month. CSG on the sports card side down 20%. And then the big one that everyone's talking about is SGC down 46. So everyone's clamoring. Look at the comments on this post. When's price drop coming? When's price drop coming? What's going on? SGC. Oh my God, SGC. The big thing that happened this month is PSA rolled out the $18 grading special for the National, and I believe this had a major impact on both SGC and CSG. We're not going to talk about Beckett for the purposes of this because we don't have hard numbers to go with. But those two in general, you could see it had a massive impact on that. Last month, SGC still did not have a backlog. Or if they did, it was minuscule at most. So this is just the pure unfiltered numbers. And that $18 price point definitely had a major impact on those other two companies. It is interesting that CSG has now passed SGC for just total number of cards graded in a month. And I think, as we just discussed, it all comes down to price point. CSG bulk at $15 a card, and then PSA rolling out $18 a card grading. Obviously, not rocket scientists here, really put a hit into SGC's total volume. So the golden question is when is the SGC price change coming? That's what everyone wants to know. I don't know. Peter hinted prior to the National that they had announcements coming. Obviously, nothing's been announced since the Raw card review. I spoke to Peter at the National a couple different times, actually, but we had a decent 5 to 10 minute long conversation on Thursday, which for the National is a long period of time, given how busy the show floor is. And he did not say anything about a price drop. He just said that they had some announcements coming soon after the National, but it was not necessarily price related, just in general. But that was something they had hinted at prior to when they made that first announcement. So that's nothing earth-shattering there. What those announcements are, I have no idea. Will it be a price drop? I don't know. Do they need a price drop? I don't know. Probably some sort of little adjustment, but I don't know that I see them going to like 10, 15, maybe even $20 a card. I think maybe they drop to 25, maybe 20. You can already get 24-ish with group submitters. The thing that we don't know is we don't see these companies, take SGC out of the picture. We don't see these companies' books. We are just assuming that at X number of cards graded per month is a disaster. Like SGC dropped 40%. That's a disaster. Is it? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an accountant for SGC. I don't know if 54,000 is a good month for them. Maybe 54,000 cards graded in a month. Sure, it's less than the month prior. Maybe that's still a very profitable month for them. We don't know. Now, that being said, do I think they need to tweak a little something? Sure. Drop down $5, see what happens. I understand Peter's desire and SGC's desire not to have a massive backlog again. 100% get it. And how you tweak those dials can drastically alter things. But I think if you dropped even just $5 just to kind of see how things play out, see what kind of demand increases, maybe you get a little bit of a backlog, maybe you don't. Maybe everything stays the same. I don't know. But I think it would be worth at least the experiment. Do you get enough extra orders coming in with that extra $5 discount, to make up for the lost revenue of charging $30 a card? I will say $30 a card at a 72-hour turnaround time or whatever they're cranking out right now is pretty good with no declared value. But this chart shows, or this Gemrate data shows, how much downward pressure PSA can put on these companies. This is 1 month of them saying $18 a month grading with a bunch of restrictions. $200 declared value, minimum 20 cards, have to be, pre-1996, post-1996, limited window of when to submit, this, that, and the other thing. And look how much of that had an impact on this. And maybe we're all overrating the PSA thing. Maybe if PSA didn't announce the $18 thing, these numbers would have looked like this anyway. Once again, there's only so many cards per month that can be graded. How much is actually sitting out there to be graded? Yes, Prism Football and Basketball have come out. You would assume that would be putting a lot of cards into the grading pool. But who knows? But I have to assume the $18 grading fee from PSA put a lot of heat on the other companies. So whether it's all that, I don't know. Whether it's part of that, probably yes. But this just shows how much power they have over the entire marketplace. Just them offering that for, 3 weeks? Potentially skewed submissions on all the other companies this greatly. And what I've been hinting at forever is what happens when they clear the backlog and they can get even more aggressive on pricing. What happens to everybody else? That's the golden ticket right there. When we get to October 1st, I'm speculating here, maybe even mid-September, and PSA comes out, they post a little video to Instagram or something showing the last card in the backlog being packaged up and shipped out. And they say, we're open for business, boys and girls. And they're already starting to do that now with their pricing. What happens then as this downward pressure mounts on the other companies? And to be honest, we probably see that come into effect before that. I have a feeling this $18, national special, probably we get some different version of that pretty quick here. Maybe it's a $20 special. Maybe it's $20 on certain cards. $15 on set registry stuff. I don't know, but I think we start to see that stuff spool up sooner rather than later. Because remember, the front half of the PSA process is clean. My $30 value submission that I sent on July 4th is already in assembly. So it's already through grading. It's done being graded. I've heard people that submitted early July specials, the $18 thing, that sent cards right away. They're already moving through the process pretty far along in some cases. So once again, that front half of that PSA backlog is real clean. They're moving stuff quick. And they still need orders to come in. Now, they're going to get a bunch of work probably from all this national stuff that they're going to bring home with them. But I wouldn't be surprised if sometime later in August, I'm doing, the red alert video for X amount of Y whatever PSA pricing with, jump through these hoops and you could get cards graded at some lower priced point. I think ultimately what we see happen is CSG probably stays about where they are for pricing. Hell, they just raised prices slightly, but they're still the cheapest to grade with. I think at some point in time, SGC gets more competitive with CSG on prices, whatever that looks like, who knows. And then Beckett needs to get more competitive on pricing as well. If I was Beckett, I would be rolling out BGS pricing at $30 a card with subgrades to match SGC's pricing, even if it's like a 1 month turnaround instead of like a one day turnaround like SGC's running right now. Beckett needs to get modern cards in slabs to get a presence in the ultra modern market again. You just do not see Prism Silvers. You do not see Optic Hollows. You do not see that sort of stuff in BGS slabs ever at shows anymore. That's a problem. But we'll see how this all shakes out. That's the data for this month. Obviously, this is something we'll be keeping a close eye on as we move throughout August. I guess question I'll leave you all on. Do you think there's enough cards/demand in the grading landscape to support 4 companies? We have what I like to refer to as the big 4: PSA, CSG/CGC, SGC, and Beckett. Is there enough to support all of them? Do we see one of them get gobbled up by one of the other ones? I don't know which one. I'm purely speculation mode here. But I don't know if there is enough cards to go around to support all 4 companies in the long term. They're basically grading like 1.4 million cards per month, or at least have the ability to. PSA is doing 1 million themselves. CCG is doing 153,000. SGC did 50K. Let's say Beckett did 50K. It's a little bit under, but let's just call it 1.3 million cards per month. Is there enough long-term to support that much capacity? I don't know. I honestly don't. And then what happens? Do we see some sort of merger at some point in time? between two of the companies, or one of them gobbles up another one. I don't know. Curious for your thoughts and comments down below. Very interesting Gemrate data. Thanks for sticking with me today. Still not feeling super great. Voice is struggling. Only have to edit out about 15 coughing fits from this one. We'll catch you guys and girls tomorrow for a full breakdown of all my national pickups. Peace.